Good Tuesday night, Grizz and Nuggets in the Emirates Cup tonight. I think Emirates is getting the best deal out of this. Every time you say the NBA Cup, which just used to be the NBA Cup, now you throw in that airline, which is supposed to be fantastic. The Grizz will not have John Morant tonight. They will not have Zach Edey. That's tough. So basically two of their original five starters out, yet this new offense seems to have done a pretty good job, and they took care of the jokerless Nuggets. Aaron Gordon didn't play in that game either, so they were missing some key pieces. It was personal issues, and I think Joker is still questionable for tonight. Do we have any clarity on what that might be?
His wife had a baby.
Oh, he's not coming back.
Nah.
His wife had a baby? Fantastic.
That's what I heard, at least.
Why don't they just say that? You know, they make you think, oh, gosh, maybe he's got mental health issues or who knows, somebody died in the family. And it's a baby, for God's sake. She should be celebrating. He's going to be in a great mood when he comes back. I don't think he's going to come back now, though. Would you? You'd stay with your wife.
That's right.
And the newborn. Heck, with these new in society today, this never happened when I was having children 30-something years ago. If you have a child today, you know that there are some places where you get paternity time up to a year for 80% of your salary. Some of these larger companies offer this. You are off for a year, and a lot of times the mother gets the year, then you get the year, and you're still making 80% of your salary. It's pretty impressive. Most, however, what? Most paternity time off now is like 6 weeks, right? So wouldn't he, if he wanted 6 weeks off, would the Nuggets give it to him?
That's a good question.
I'm sure he's going to take 6 days off. He just had the baby, right?
That's right, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Good for him. The Tigers get ready for a 9-day road trip. Now, I've been doing their games for a long time. I don't remember a 9-day road trip. I asked Penny if he'd ever remembered a 9-day road trip. He goes, only in the NBA. And off to paradise we will go. We'll be headed to Maui. I got to tell you, if you're a basketball fan, college basketball fan, this is the one you want to go to. I heard Greg and Eli going over this field. The worst team in this field is 70 on the Ken Palm. 70. I mean, you're not going to get a gathering of these kinds of teams. Only in Maui. Used to be when there weren't that many. Alaska was the one that really started this. Now, that one was a whole lot different. That's bleak, dark. In fact, it was never light. But now you go to Maui, you're on a beach. In fact, the team hotel that the Tigers are at is on this thing called Black Rock Beach. I think it's called Black Rock Beach. There's a big black rock you can climb up and jump into the water. It's got some of the best snorkeling in the world right outside your door. All you got to do is rent a mask, a snorkel, and fins, and you're in business. And it's like they don't charge you a lot because it's part of like the hotel. It's the best darn deal. There's the volcano ride you can take where you go up top of this volcano, watch sunrise, drive your bike that they give you down, have breakfast and the spectacular views you get. There's the road to Hana. There's another road on the northern part of the island it's just spectacular views. And then you sit in this little gym. It's really a high school gym. You sit in this little gym. Didn't used to be air-conditioned, and the U.S. Olympic team, Dream Team, in fact, in the 90s, they were practiced. They decided that's where they were going to practice, and so they actually put air conditioning in that little gym in Lahaina.
Shout out them.
Yeah, it was very nice of them. And you're on top of the players. I mean, it's a high school gym. I don't know what it seats. Not more than 2,000, I don't think. And you're watching UConn, and you're watching Michigan State, and you're watching North Carolina, and you're watching Auburn, and you're watching the Tigers. I mean, it's the best teams always end up in Maui because it is paradise, and you're in this little tiny gym watching it. It's just spectacular. So if you're a college basketball fan and you want one dream trip, to me, and I've done this like 4 times now, it's Maui. It's every time I see that Memphis has a chance to go to Maui, I'm begging coaches, go to Maui. Go to Maui. And it's because it is spectacular. Can't wait for that. College football playoff reveal tonight. And we will talk a little bit about this with Steve Earhart in a couple of minutes. There's a chance, because ESPN even has this. If Boise wins out and beats UNLV, the way things are going with the Big 12, like Colorado's the hot team, BYU smashed, or I shouldn't say smashed, lost to Kansas. They've lost some luster there. They've actually got Boise with the 4th seed because one champion is going to be a 12 seed. And in this case, they've got BYU as the 12 seed, and they've got Boise, ESPN Power Rankings, they've got Boise as the team that would get the bye to make the second round. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if Boise slips, Tulane gets in? Could Tulane get that position?
I guess it just depends on where they rank them.
If Tulane beats the heck out of Memphis, then beats the heck out of Army in the championship game, which could occur.
Sure.
Because they look to be pretty good to me. We'll know a little bit more about Army this week against Notre Dame.
Yeah,
which, by the way,
game.
Notre Dame, come on. I don't know. Can I say that they're lucky spermers? Is that fair to
can
say,
say that,
on radio?
Sure.
I guess in this day and age, there's a lot worse said on radio.
That's right.
It's amazing to me. Why would Notre Dame ever join a conference?
Good question.
Because they can take this crummy schedule, lose to Northern Illinois, and still make the field, not share any of their money with anybody, including keeping all the NBC money. Why would they ever join a conference? It's amazing to me. They get special rules. But don't worry, it's going to be the same way for the Big Ten and the SEC. Wait till they change this format coming up. I just hope they keep that conference champions are in, because there's a great deal of discussion going on between the Big Ten and the SEC that basically states we just want the 16 best teams or the 14 best teams, however it turns out. I hope that is not the case, but there clearly is that chance. So I can't wait for this reveal. That is for certain. So we got a busy show. We're going to start with Steve Earhart. We talk NFL on Tuesdays. You know that by now. We'll wrap up week number 11. Hard to believe. Week 11 already in the books. Jeff Moore will join us in studio here at the bottom of the hour. And then we travel to Nashville and talk to our friend Mike Keat, the voice of the Tennessee Titans. That is how we will end our Tuesdays. I'm sitting in the Family Leisure Studios, and a reminder, yes, the Ultimate Game Room and Fall Sale, those 2 sales continue. And they will through this month, I am certain, maybe even into December. I don't know. But I can tell you, you can complete your Ultimate Game Room. You can get a new pool table. If you ever look at their pool tables, I mean, they're the best in the world. They're state of the art. Or you can do a shuffleboard. You could do an arcade game. Or you could do them all if you really want the ultimate game room. And then you got to help them clear out the overstock of theater seating. They are really priced to move. And you may want to ask about the massage chairs, because I think those are unbelievable. Perfect fire pit weather. Wait till tomorrow comes. You'll really know. Fall is here. Nothing beats a little fire pit action with friends over some beers and maybe some s'mores in your backyard. 20 to 30% off. Just get to I-40 and Wooden Road. That's right. The Ultimate Game Room and Fall Sale happening right now at Family Leisure. Let's head down Ridgeway to our friend Steve Earhart. Actually, I think he may be at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadiums. They have a meeting today. Good morning, Mr. E. How are you?
Good morning, David. Glad to be here with you. And, boy, this season just flew by in a flash. And we're coming down to the last couple of weeks. And, we'll be ready for Selection Sunday, which is the Sunday after the conference championship games. And we'll be naming the teams for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. And then on that Monday and Tuesday, the advanced teams, will be coming into town to look at the hotels, the stadium, and the things that we have planned for the team. So, boy, it's coming in here in a hurry.
It is. They will pick it on the 8th. The championship games are on the 7th. It is. It moves fast, that is for sure. The SEC has a chance to get 12 bowl-eligible teams, so it's pretty certain Memphis and the AutoZone Liberty Bowl will get an SEC team. When we talked last week, it appeared like it would probably be Vandy. I know that's the one I have been lobbying for. Where do you stand on the SEC side of your matchup?
Yeah, and Dave, you made a great point there with Florida beating LSU there, and then Florida has a game that they ought to win, so they'll get to 6 wins. Arkansas has a game that they're selected to win,
that's
and
this
so
week,
they should. That's this week, so they should get to 6 wins. So there'll be a lot of teams. Now Vandy got to their 6 early, but boy, they had the tough end of their schedule at the back end here. They've got a couple of games, and it was interesting is Vandy was playing or still is playing so well. They had a bye week getting ready for this week, but the lady from ESPN who was here in town last night, she was talking about how Texas's best win was a win over Vanderbilt by 3 points. So it's kind of amazing here that the team that ranked the top in the conference claims that their best win is over Vanderbilt. So, yeah, we'll have probably a little bit of choices there. Of course, the SEC does assign the teams to all their bowls. So I think it'd be a natural if Vandy comes to the game. She also talked about Diego Pavia, the quarterback for Vanderbilt, is one of the most exciting guys in all of college football, and how the Vanderbilt team is really together. And she thought they better be ready, the 2 teams that they play, and then they have Tennessee at home, and of course Tennessee will be a big favorite. But the potential of Arkansas. Now we had Arkansas 2 years ago in that great triple overtime game, 55-53. But Arkansas could be a potential, and then we've never had Florida in the game in the history of the 66 years. So now that they're the surprise team, and if they're getting hot at the end of the year, so we'll see how Florida does this week. They're hosting Ole Miss, I believe. So if that's a good close game, we'll see. I know Ole Miss is favored, but I would say that probably Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Missouri, and Florida. And probably in that order, but we'll never know what the SEC is going to do for sure.
Well, let's go through that process. Does Greg Sankey ever consult with you? I'm certain he consults with the teams. There may be a bowl that a particular team would like to go to that they may voice that opinion to Sankey. I guess he makes the final decision. How does that process work?
Yeah, what happens in probably next week or maybe the week leading up to the conference championship game, the SEC asks each bowl to submit their top 3 choices in order of who they would like to have in the game. They also ask each athletic director at each of the potential universities to list the bowls that they would most like to go to. And then they have a lot of caveats like avoid repeats. Geographic is important as well. And so then you hit it right on the head. They take into account all those, and certainly the bowls. We all lobby as hard as we can, but they retain, the final right. And that started with our old friend Mike Slive. Remember when he was commissioner of the SEC, and some of the bowls were getting in fights with who did they want to have in the bowl, and he finally said, "I'm taking it over." So the SEC takes it over. They do consult with us, and we'll certainly have conversations with the athletic directors at those schools that we just mentioned.
How do you think the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, with all its festivities and the galas and everything else, and being the 7th oldest bowl in history, where do you think that ranks on the docket of the athletic directors? Tough question, I know, but what's your gut feel on that?
Well, you're 100% right. Of course, you've got each individual university. Ole Miss, for example. We used to have Ole Miss in the old days. We had them 3 or 4 times there. In fact, Archie Manning always reminds us that they've got the very best record. I think they're 4-0 in AutoZone Liberty Bowl history. But, they generally like to go a further plate because basically this is staying at home, much like Vanderbilt, would be staying at home in Nashville. So there's usually an athletic director, and the entire university community likes to take a trip. Now, Florida, I would have to admit that most of the schools say we'd like to go to a Florida Bowl. They've got all the weather and the beaches and all that kind of thing. What we have to fight back with is we have, as you mentioned, we have some great hospitality, great friendliness. The SEC does stay at the Peabody, one of the finest hotels in the country. And so those are the things that we have to fight back with. But then you've got the Houston Bowl and the Las Vegas Bowl with beautiful NFL-style stadiums. So that's why it's so important, the reworking of Simmons Liberty Stadium to get that so we can be more competitive as far as our facility goes. But you're right. We always have to fight hard to stay in the mix there. And with every other bowl that we're competing with has basically a high-class NFL-style stadium with 10 times the number of skyboxes, and et cetera, et cetera. So, and thank you to all the people that help out, because it is the hospitality, the tradition, the history, and the friendliness. And as Greg Sank in, he usually comes to our game. He was here 2 years ago when Arkansas was here, and we talked about how in the city of Memphis it just means more to have a bowl game here in town, whereas maybe in Tampa, although they have beaches and sunshine and all that kind of thing, it doesn't mean as much. They've got a lot of other things going on in Tampa. So thank you to all the people, and that is important. So when the teams are here, we've really got to roll out the hospitality.
All right. On the other side, you sort of spelled it out last week. I don't know if it still holds true. The winner of the Baylor-West Virginia game had the leg up on the other to get to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. You mentioned Ren Baker on his connection, that he was interested in the bowl game, but Baylor beat West Virginia. Where do you stand on that side of the matchup?
Yeah, and you're right. Every week it changes, but there's probably 4, maybe 5 teams from the Big 12 that we would love to have. I mean, they're very deep in the conference, and look at Kansas. Although they played that tough schedule earlier, they were 1-5, and now they've beaten Iowa State and BYU
really
on the road.
Sent the Big 12 falling.
And so remember what a great time we had with Kansas 2 years ago when they played that triple overtime game. So I would say, and I'm not ranking these, but I think potential teams for us are, and you mentioned Baylor. West Virginia is still in it. They've got 2 more games to play to get eligible. Cincinnati would like to be here again. We haven't had them since they actually played Vanderbilt 13 years ago. Remember when Butch Jones was the coach at Cincinnati and James Franklin was the coach at Vanderbilt? They're still alive for it. And then you've got a couple other Texas teams that are alive and we had Texas Tech 3 years ago, but TCU is there as well. And then now with Kansas State, everybody thought Kansas State was going to be, highly ranked and probably going into the playoff. But now maybe they're back eligible again. The one thing I would say is we will not bring Iowa State back, because we had them last year, and both sides kind of agree that having back-to-back 2 years in a row is not the best thing for both sides. So it's pretty wide open there, and Baylor's won 4 in a row here, and we haven't had them in 40 years. So I still think that
that's a good story.
That could be a good matchup.
Yeah, that is a very good story. What do you think of this notion? Because ESPN's power rankings have it as such that because of the BYU loss and because of the success of Boise, their only loss close to number 1 Oregon at Oregon, that if they win out, probably beating UNLV, they got 2 games that they're big favorites in, and then they would probably play UNLV or Colorado State in the championship game. If it's UNLV, the first game was a pretty good tussle. They've got a Heisman Trophy favorites, either Genty or Travis Hunter, I would think. Those 2 guys are at the top of the Heisman list. That's always attractive to everybody. Do you think there's a chance that the group of 5 representative, Boise in this case, would get the bye and the Big 12 team would become the 12th seed?
I think it's even beyond a chance. I would go out on a limb and say that if Boise wins out, they will get a bye. And that's because of what you just said, that their only loss was on the road by 3 to the number 1 team in the country. Now, that's provided Oregon continues to win. And then the best team coming out of the Big 12, and my own personal feeling, having been out in Colorado, seeing how full of themselves they are out in Colorado with prime time and so on, that Colorado is the hot team. And I think if they win the Big 12, they have 2 losses, and I do not think they would jump the Big 12 winner, whether it's Colorado. BYU struggling right now. Who wins that? That I think that Boise State, if they win out, is in as one of the top seeds, and that means they get a bye. And plus, you're right. I think coming out of the Big 12, I think it'll be Colorado. I don't know who's going to come out of the ACC. Could our old friends at SMU pull it out there and beat Miami? I don't know. But I do believe, in fact, I'll go with a little wager to you. If Boise wins out, they'll get the bye.
Okay, I love that. That's a lunch bet right there, just so we have some action on it. Okay, last thing. Okay. This is not just the AutoZone Liberty Bowl question. This is about the business of sports and the bowls. Where's Memphis going to go?
I think the American Athletic is going to use geography a great deal in how they place their teams. East Carolina, I think, is close to the Annapolis game there. I think they could be a leader in the pack there. Tulane, if they do win the conference championship, they'll have their choice. And then you got Army. Army loves to recruit in Texas, so I think that might be where they would go.
They would go to the Fort Worth Bowl, Military Bowl.
Right. And then I would think that, the Independence Bowl, if they can pull in one of those ex-Pac-12 teams.
Well, they're going, according to their rep, they will get the ex-Pac team for sure. Like USC could end up in that game. Now, that would be interesting. Memphis, a rematch of the game that they had in the 80s against USC. I'd like that.
Right. I remember that game. Yeah, so I think maybe right now, but you never know how they're going to place the teams, and you never know what. And if Tulane is the champion, they'll get their choice of where they want to go. So, but I think that's a reasonable assumption, that the Tigers could potentially be going to the Independence Bowl.
That is... I'm reasonable. I think that's fair.
Nothing is set until December 8th.
The fans can get there. It's not a terrible stadium,
right.
and the fans can get there. And I think there's like 3 casinos between Bossier City and Shreveport. So
that's right.
I think everybody would be happy. All right, my friend. Thank you much.
Thanks
you. Because Thanksgiving and the Tigers being in Maui and everything, we will take off next week.
All right, Dave.
We'll be back.
Send us photos of you diving off that cliff you were talking about. We want to see photos. The Black Rock. Yeah. We want to see photographs of King David Voloshin diving off the Black Rock into the ocean.
There you go. Maybe.
I
don't know if I'm going up there. Only if I'm suicidal. Thank you. We appreciate it. That's Steve Earhart, the big cheese, the head honcho of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. We take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to the NFL, and we start with ex-Ram, ex-Vol, Jeff Moore. He's next.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ. Getaway Sports Bar, the best kept secret in town. Open noon to 1:30 a.m. 7 days a week. Gardening, the creators, SEC NFL Dream Bar over 20 years ago. You'll never miss a minute of action. 10 TVs, 5 70-inch TVs for all the big games. Come up on 6 pool tables. Hold a spear and tail. We'll still get you some more butter. 100 chicken tenders. Daily happy hour Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. on Megabus 1625. Getaway Sports Bar, 2632 Winchester.
And Choate's Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Generators is here to make this season extra cozy and cheerful. For the first 50 customers who purchase a new carrier system, tankless water heater, or a whole home generator, we have a special gift for you. Choose from a $500 gift card or 60 months no interest financing. And don't forget about Choate's Refer a Friend referral program, where you could earn up to $500. Simply refer a friend to use our services, and if they become a customer, you could earn up to a $500 Visa gift card. But hurry, this festive offer will only last through December 20th. Visit ChoatesHVAC.com or call 347-8086 to schedule your free estimate today. And turn to the experts with Choates and let our family serve your family this holiday season.
Lots of our fans have gone to see Genesis Diamonds, and they are amazed. Hey, it's Eric Hasseltine, and Genesis is fast becoming the go-to place for people here when it comes to engagement rings and fine designer jewelry. They also have a ton of luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Genesis guarantees the best diamond prices, period. They are a direct diamond importer with no middleman, which means incredible value for you. Genesis turned the old-school jewelry business model upside down with slimmer margins, more selection, no commission salespeople, and stronger warranties. They have every diamond you can imagine, natural and lab-grown diamonds in every shape and every size. Genesis has thousands of designer engagement rings from top designers that you won't find at other stores. And keep this in mind with the holidays around the corner. Genesis has case after case of incredible diamond fashion rings, diamond eternity bands, diamond earrings, diamond necklaces, colored gemstones at every possible price point. All of this in a beautiful new showroom with great local experts who will teach you how to buy like a dealer buys. Genesis Diamonds, you will love it at Poplar and Perkins Extended.
Hungry for that delicious smash burger flavor? Dyer's Cafe is the original smash burger since 1912 and still smashing burgers in Collierville's historic town square. Come out for their lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11 to 2. Ask about the world-famous split dog and authentic Chicago or New York dog. Try the leaner side of Dyer's with a grilled chicken sandwich or freshly made salad. Also serving Lakes Delta-raised catfish, Pasquale's tamales, and a customer favorite hand-breaded onion rings. Dyer's, serving world-famous burgers, dogs, and shakes in Collierville's historic town square.
Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Felix Cavalieri, founding member of the Rascals, will be performing with Six Wire this year's AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and you'll want to be there too. You'll hear all the iconic hits at the President's Gala on December 26th at Peabody, and at halftime at the 66th AutoZone Liberty Bowl on December 27th. Get your tickets today by calling the AutoZone Liberty Bowl at 795-7700. The Tennessee Highway Safety Office reminds you that fans don't let fans drive drunk. Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
All we hear is Radio Gaga,
11 weeks in the books in the National Football League. Hard to believe. I guess we say this all the time. But, the older I get, the more quickly times seem to move. And once basketball with the overlap comes, it's like nutso. But it seems like this season has gone by rather quickly. My usual heartbreak with the Bears, but Kansas City continues to keep on winning, and a little surprised Detroit may be the best team in the NFL. Let's start with the premier game from last week. That is Buffalo in Buffalo against Kansas City, and Kansas City finally loses. That means there are no undefeated, so that Miami Dolphins team that had Kick and Zonka and Warfield, they are, well, not many of them are here with us anymore, but they're toasting because they're still the only undefeated team.
Yeah. And it was, I think this Buffalo team is a little bit different from the Buffalo teams that have beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season. And the Chiefs are a little bit different. You don't see the explosive plays in the Chiefs offense like we saw. And again, this is probably one of the worst statistically for Patrick Mahomes. They don't have the balance that they've had in the past. But, the only thing that matters is when they meet in the playoffs. And we know that these two teams will probably ultimately run into each other in the playoffs.
What do you think that is? It is Andy Reid getting found out? I don't think that's the truth. No. They did lose Rashee Rice, who was really starting to become an elite receiver. They might lose him to Law anyway because of a couple alleged indiscretions. Is that the story, or is Buffalo just getting better? Kansas City's only lost one time.
I think that's part of the story. Rashid, they're not getting the explosive plays. They've got some younger players that are still trying to figure it out. And their running game is just been so. And again, Buffalo, I think they've flown out of the radar earlier. They lost Stephon Diggs, they lost some players on defense, and nobody was expecting a lot out of them, and they're really playing well. Josh Allen is been outstanding. It continues to be. I mean, the run he had at the end of that game was incredible.
Yeah.
So I like the way this team has gone through the season. Just really, it's still kind of under the radar. I mean, people still want to talk about Kansas City. Pittsburgh has surprised some folks with the way that they're playing. I really like this Buffalo team.
All right, Detroit dominates Jacksonville. They put 52 on the Jaguars. A lot of people are wondering, how is Doug Peterson still the coach today? I'm not a big proponent of firing in season, so I don't have a problem with that. But clearly they got issues in Jacksonville. They got a crazy owner, too. I think that's part of the problems in Jacksonville. But Detroit is just so good. If I were setting odds on who will be in the Super Bowl, I would definitely have Detroit in there in the NFC. Curious about what you think, who you think is the best team in the NFL right now.
I think Detroit is playing the best football in the league by far this year. And, that's on the heels of a game last week where, they threw 5 interceptions and barely won. But I like the way they're physical, they're talented, they've got a really strong coaching staff. So I think they're the best team. They still got to beat Kansas City. They ultimately, if they make it to the Super Bowl, they've still got to be able to beat. In their division, it's really going to help them. The fact that Green Bay is playing so well and Minnesota's playing so well.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
If the playoffs started today, 3 of the 4, as you mentioned, Detroit, Minnesota, and Green Bay would all be in. The only team out would be the Bears, who really should have 2 more wins than they have right now.
Right. The Bears, they were very competitive this past weekend. I like what they're doing, getting the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands. They were very competitive in the game, had a chance to win it, and that bodes well for them going
now, you do
forward.
know
They're young.
They showed in video that there should have been a penalty on Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot cover up and go through the center on a blocked field goal.
Right.
They did.
Yeah.
And the NFL missed that.
Yep.
Should have been 5 more yards, and
who knows?
Then Santos, I guarantee you, is going to hit that field goal to win.
Yeah.
Or if they didn't make the penalty, he would have hit the field goal. So that, and then the Hail Mary, the Bears, that's just heartbreak for all of their fans for sure. Now, the story on the negative side here, besides the Bears, is the Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Texans dominated them last night, right? Jerry Jones said after the game he does not believe that Mike McCarthy has lost this team. Do you believe that?
Absolutely. I think he lost them before last night. But this team doesn't play with a lot of discipline. They don't play with a lot of heart. They just kind of show up, and go through the motions for 4 quarters. And that's why their record is what it is. I mean, you just can't play that way. And I think it's a reflection of coaching. I think Mike McCarthy is a good X's and O's coach.
He won a Super Bowl. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was yesteryear. He did win a Super Bowl, but his teams the last couple of years have been very undisciplined. They're towards the top of the league in penalties. To me, that's coaching. So, he's a good X's and O's coach, but in terms of just being able to lead men so that they play better, I'm surprised that he's still around.
They made history last night, too. They fell behind by 20.
Wow.
So this has never happened in the National Football League. That's why Brian Dacus has been totally silent this whole program. He's more heartbroken than I am.
I am heartbroken.
The Cowboys have trailed by 20 in each of the past 6 home games. When Joe Mixon ran in one of his 3 touchdowns last night, they went up by 24. No team in the history of the NFL has trailed by 20 or more in 6 straight games at home in the whole history of the National Football League. It's a disaster in Dallas.
It's a disaster, and what makes it even worse is it's seeing a player like Joe Mixon, who possibly could have been a signee of the Cowboys in the offseason. I mean, I don't know what they've got to fix it. I don't know how they're going to fix it. I think they'll have a challenge at attracting a really good coach because of the influence and control that their owner wants to have. It's not going to be pretty in Dallas for a while.
I got to tell you, we never talk special teams. We did actually earlier in the year because all these guys were hitting 60-yard field goals, right? All of a sudden, you know how the pendulum swings? Well, we've had in 2 weeks in a row, Kansas City blocked a field goal at the end to win a game. And I mentioned already the Packers illegally blocked a field goal to win a game. We've seen Justin Tucker, who 2 years ago was the most accurate kicker in the history of the National Football League. He missed 2 field goals. So did our guy Jake Elliott, who's been nothing but clutch for both the Tigers and the Philadelphia Eagles. What's going on? How did this happen?
I think we may have been applauding the kickers too much earlier in the year. Because, you know, when they get into that's a mental game as much as it is physical. And it seems like when a guy gets into a mental slump, it's a challenge to get out of it sometimes.
Yeah. All right, we got 2 games this week that center on the West Coast a little bit. You've got Philadelphia, a surprise, because I thought they were going to be bad. Yeah. That whole division's not so good. But they're decent, and they take on the Rams. Finally, the Rams look better because they got 2 receivers back that were both injured for a while. And then you got the brother game, the Harbaughs, the Harbaugh Bowl.
Yes. So Philadelphia has been impressive, primarily because of Saquon Barkley. He's been amazing.
And why did the Giants let him go?
Having his best year. They're getting some balance. The quarterback's playing with a lot more confidence. Their defense is playing better. So I really like the way Philly is playing at this point, especially having lost only 2 games. And the one of the games one of those losses was a Saquon Barkley drop that he normally would make 9 times out of 10. And the Rams are playing better. That division is fascinating too because outside of Arizona, you've got 3 other teams that are tied 5-5. So it's a big game for the Rams. They need to win it, but I like Philly in that game. I think they're just playing with a lot of confidence now. Their offense seems to be clicking extremely well. They've got some guys that were hurt back, so they're going to be formidable down the stretch. And the Harbaugh Bowl is fascinating to me because Baltimore. Every time I try to drink the Baltimore Kool-Aid, they disappoint me. And I like what Jim Harbaugh is doing with the Chargers.
I'm shocked by what he's doing.
They're flying under the radar. They're playing extremely well with a lot of confidence, and they're young. So they're a dangerous team. I like them in this game against Baltimore. Baltimore always tends to have a big comeback game after they lose. Not sure some of the decisions at the end of that game. But I like the Chargers' chances in this game against Baltimore.
Some people think Baltimore is the second best team behind Kansas City, not counting Buffalo, not counting the Houston Texans that I think are pretty darn good, not counting the Steelers who are 8-2.
Yeah.
But I'm beginning to doubt the Ravens, and Jim Harbaugh is doing some things. The Ravens are 7-4. The Chargers are 7-3.
Yeah.
I think Lamar obviously is MVP last year and trying to make a case for this year, but Justin Herbert has new life under Jim Harbaugh. I kind of like. I like the Chargers in this game.
Me too. And the thing about Justin Herbert is he's been putting up big numbers on bad teams.
Yeah.
Now he's got a really decent team around him. This guy is really going to get an opportunity to show how really good he is.
I'm with you there 100%. As always, thank you for coming in. I didn't mention till right now, just very quickly, Tennessee, Georgia. Whew, what happened? And do you think the Vols still get in?
I don't think the Vols get in. And frankly, I can't say they deserve it. I mean, when you get in the place that they've gotten, you got to earn it. You got to beat the Georgias. They beat Alabama. You got to beat the teams that have been elite, and we're just not there yet. The offense has been up and down. They were decent in the first half, putrid in the second half. We're not quite in that league yet.
Freshman QB.
Yeah.
And they kept him in that pocket. I've heard some people say they should have moved him like they did against Alabama. I don't know. But happy holidays to you. We'll be off next week. We appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
That's our man, former Vol, former Ram. That is Jeff Moore. We take a break. We're heading to Nashville. After that, we talk Titans football and more NFL with the voice of the Tennessee Titans, Mike Keith. He comes your way in just a minute.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hey fellas, it's Bill Russell at Russell Brothers Jewelers, and this year it happened on October the 21st. My first gentleman came in the store and asked me what he should get his wife for Christmas. My answer was get her what she will enjoy and something she will love. Think about what she likes. You might even ask her what she wants. Then, come into Russell Brothers and let us show you the finest, most beautiful jewelry in Memphis. Folks, this will be our 40th Christmas, and many of our customers have been with us for all 40 of those years. They come looking for fine jewelry that makes a lady's eyes dance, but they also know that they will receive quality, value, and service that is unsurpassed in Memphis. And at Russell Brothers, you can play St. Nick knowing that if you don't make the right choice, our money-back guarantee will allow her the ability to exchange her gift for one that she really does love, or she gets your money back. For 5 decades, we've helped thousands of Mid-South Sammers, and we'd love to help you. Russell Brothers, 4646 Poplar at Perkins.
Welcome to Triumph Auto Sales, where you'll have a great car buying experience. Triumph Auto Sales is your #1 source of quality pre-owned vehicles ranging from lease returns to new car trades, all at huge savings. Plus, Triumph has a full array of financing options to meet your needs. Find your next car online at TriumphAutoSales.com or stop in today at 4875 Elmore Road. Triumph Auto Sales will help you get the vehicle you want at the price you need and the service you deserve. For a great car and a great experience from a local and family-owned business, visit Triumph Auto Sales.
If there's a better time of year to spend some time in the comfortable confines of Bell Tavern, I don't know what it is. This time of year when the air is getting crisp and college football, the NFL, the Grizzlies, and the Tigers are all playing is the ideal time to grab a seat at Memphis' best-kept secret. We say it all the time, and it's still true. You could go to some chain bar where people tend to make a lot of noise, or you could settle into Bell Tavern where people tend to act like adults. There will be cheering and there will be jeering, but it won't be chaos because at Bell Tavern, it's assumed you'll act like a grown-up.
Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, Automatic Gates Construction tailors custom gate solutions for all your residential, commercial, and industrial needs, including repairs, maintenance, and installation. Automatic Gates Construction specializes in designing and installing automatic gates and fencing that seamlessly blends security, functionality, and aesthetic appeal. Elevate the safety and efficiency of your property with a premium gate solution. Automatic Gates Construction at myautomaticgates.com.
Back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshyn.
I always love talking to Mike Keith. We head to Nashville to talk with the voice of the Tennessee Titans. Good morning, Mike. Tough one. Minnesota's defense awfully good. Held the Titans to only 294 yards, and the other bummer here was 13 penalties by the Titans in that game. That was tough, and I know that was at home. Good morning.
Good morning. It was. There were multiple bummers in that game. 13 penalties for the Titans to just 3 for the Vikings. One of those penalties cost a touchdown to the Titans on a long touchdown pass. Another of those penalties happened in the end zone on a 4th down play, which the Titans had stopped the Vikings, so 14 points there. There were mistakes that the Titans made, certainly didn't have enough protection. There were some good things on the day, but in the end, the better team won. Minnesota is a quality team that if they get the type of performance that they got out of Sam Darnold on Sunday here in Nashville, they will be somebody in the playoffs that you legitimately say can win the NFC.
You think the NFC North is the best division in football? If the playoffs started today, the only team from that division not in the playoffs are the Bears, who should have two more W's, by the way, behind their ledger.
Yeah, I think it's the best division in football. I think it's that quality. I mean, you talk about the NFC West and everybody's so bunched up, but that's Arizona 6-4 and the other three 5-5. So that doesn't count.
How about the AFC West?
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, it's certainly heavier at the top end.
Yeah.
I don't think realistically anybody is close to Kansas City. I don't think the Chargers or the Broncos are close to Kansas City per se. In the NFC North, I think the Vikings are very close to the Detroit Lions, who I think might be the best team in ball. So I think we have seen between Buffalo, Detroit, and Minnesota, I think it's very possible we've seen 3 of the 5 best teams in the NFL.
You've had that tough schedule. You really have. And the Vikings really did a good job defensively. I mentioned the yards, only 11 first downs. And this is, I think, the very first team that really stopped our own Tony Pollard just absolutely dead in his tracks. 9 carries, 15 yards.
Yeah, and, it's kind of a weird game. We had 21 plays in the first quarter. We had the ball for nearly 12 minutes. 11 of those were running plays. When they got the sort of feel that it was not going to be a day that they could run the ball, and when the Titans fell behind, they got in a position, Dave, at that point where they said, okay, we sort of have to abandon the running game. So maybe they could have done more with it. They had 19 rushes overall for 33 yards, but it was one of those days where the situation and the opponent kind of dictated you go away from the run game. Let me say this about Minnesota's defense, because everybody wants to talk about their 6-man pressure look, their 7-man, their 8-man pressure look, and it's really impressive. They have the number 1 run defense in the NFL. So they can make you one-dimensional and then put you in a position where you have to throw the football, and then you have to determine how many of those 6, 7, or 8 guys are coming. And it is really, in watching it back and just stopping it when they drop out at the snap, I mean, it's crazy. It's like something we would do to our buddies in a backyard game, trying to fool them.
Yeah.
Right? But they're actually really doing it. And then, sometimes they send everybody just for fun. They're like, sure, let's just see what happens. Now, one play, they gave up a 98-yard touchdown on a blitz, and it cost them. But, the majority of the times they do the job. I mean, they are really good on defense. And offensively, they have enough weapons. If Sam Darnold isn't giving the ball away, they're tough stuff.
If I were a defensive coordinator, and I'm far from that, but if I were, I would send 6 every time. There's just never give the quarterback, and it would be different guys to confuse, but I would never give the quarterback the time to set up. These teams that send 3 guys on 3rd down and long, I've said this all along. Prevent defense, which is what I call that, prevents wins. It drives me crazy when people do that. You can't give an NFL quarterback time to set up. I don't care who he is. An NFL quarterback can throw the ball 60 yards, and if he's got 6, 7, 8 seconds to make a read, he's going to find somebody open.
Well, what's so special about them is when they just send 4, you don't know where they're coming from.
Right.
And so the 2 guys in the offensive line who end up with 2 guys over them, or 1 guy who ends up with 2 guys over him, you've got to block the right guy, and you don't know who that is. And the reason Minnesota does it so well is they aren't playing young guys on defense; they're playing veterans. So they've drafted some guys who've been with them a while, but they go out and pick up Andrew Van Ginkel from Miami, and Blake Cashman from Houston, and Jonathan Grenard from Houston, all these guys who know how to play football now in the NFL. And so they're running a calculus form of defense because they have the experience to know what to do and how to utilize these opportunities. And they're allowed to freelance based on what they see because they're smart players. With rookies, it's like see ball, get ball, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's really what you have to do. But these veteran players who are savvy, it's almost back to the George Allen theory about all the veterans.
Yeah, just so people don't remember, George Allen never drafted. He always traded draft choices.
Yeah, everybody on his team was old, and the reason when he was the head coach in Los Angeles and Washington, the reason he was successful is he had all these really good football players with know-how. Minnesota has that right now, and their corners are old, their safeties are old. Nobody's young, and so there's no stage fright.
Right. You know who George Allen learned from, don't you?
Tommy Prothro.
Papa Bear Hallis. He was an assistant for George Hallis for, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years. He was supposed to get
I thought you were going to give me Tommy Prothro there. I'm so disappointed.
Tommy Prothro is, he's a Memphis guy.
Yes, I'm aware.
Oh, you didn't know that. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so we discussed schedule with you already.
Yeah.
No kindness at all, because now this week you got the best team in your division, Houston. I think they're really good. I think they have a chance to move on in the playoffs. I love C.J. Stroud. That if you got a good quarterback, you got a chance.
He's a good player. He's having some growing pains this year, and I think he's handling it well. He's seeing the second-year adjustments. So he's not quite as spectacular as he was in year one. But some guys see the second-year adjustments and absolutely freak out. They're like, what? I mean, remember RG3?
Yes.
Remember Vince Young? I mean, there have been a lot of guys who were one-year phenoms, and the adjustments come along, and they don't know what to do. So this kid's dealing with that, and he's doing a nice job managing. And the other thing they did for him is they went and got him a really good running back in Joe Mixon. And so understanding that there would be adjustment, they adjusted on the front end. The other thing, too, is, man, they're good on defense. They got some dudes on defense. They've drafted well. They've added some parts. I mean, going to get Daniil Hunter and, overall, that's a big, nasty defense. They've got a lot of size. They're going to bully you. That's going to be the challenge for the Titans. It's not the same type of pressure this week, but the talent in the 11 on defense might be better overall, and the size is really impressive too.
Yeah, your schedule's not been kind. You mentioned Joe Mixon, who could have been a Dallas Cowboy, by the way. It's got to be tough in Dallas. They set history last night at home. They have trailed by 20 or more points in 6 straight games. Nobody has ever done that before. I'm not a big proponent of in-season firing, but it sure looks like Mike McCarthy has lost that team.
You feel that way. You feel that way when you watch them. You understand the challenge that he's up against. They didn't have a good offseason. They just didn't.
Mm-mm.
And, some of that was financial in nature, and then some of it was by choice. They felt like they would be able to get it done with what they had, and then they didn't do anything at the trade deadline and to speak of. And, they're kind of in an interesting place, and you wonder, are they going to be ready to run it back to what they did roughly 20 years ago when they turned the team over to Bill Parcells? Are they going to be willing to turn the team over to somebody again? Because right now they are stuck in a rut after 3 straight 12-win seasons. And listen, Mike McCarthy's a good coach.
No doubt.
He's a good football coach. That's a different situation because of the attention that they get and everything that goes with it and how deeply involved in personnel that ownership is. There's really only one other franchise where ownership is deeply involved in personnel, and that's the Brown family in Cincinnati. Otherwise, it's everybody else lets people run their personnel for them. In Dallas, they don't, and in Cincinnati, they don't. And, unfortunately for both of those teams, they're having long years.
I know with Jimmy Johnson, he had a little input because they were teammates, he and Jerry Jones.
Mm-hmm.
But he grew tired of that. Switzer never had a say in it. You mentioned Parcells. Maybe he did get a little bit more autonomy. Ever since then, though, there's not been any other guy except for Jerry Jones, maybe a little bit his son now, that are calling the shots.
Well, Stephen, I think, is very rational. They have a guy named Will McClay who's there. And Will McClay, got to know him a little bit when I did arena football. He was the Dallas Desperados guy. Huh. He was their coach and their GM. He's a great personnel guy. He's fantastic. But the Jones are in charge. Now, if you set a head coach up with Will McClay and they took a step back, you wonder what that would look like. There's several candidates for that. Or you could say to Bill Belichick, here are the keys to the castle. Go do it.
I don't know that Jerry Jones can do that, but it'll be interesting to see. Last thing, we've only got about a minute and a half. You mentioned Detroit, best team, maybe in all the football, clearly in your mind, the NFC. Who's the best team in the AFC? Kansas City, Buffalo, Pittsburgh got to put in that conversation.
I think it's Kansas City right now because of their defense and because what they have in a one-game situation with Mahomes. I don't know who you'd take in a one-game situation over Patrick Mahomes, regardless of statistics right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's done it. He's got the Joe Montana thing, right?
Yep.
He's got the Tom Brady thing. He's got the Peyton Manning thing. Not many guys have that. Give me that in that situation. But, they're going to have to get some things straight down the stretch because they have a pretty challenging schedule the rest of the way. If they want to have home field, they've got work to do. Buffalo has improved dramatically, which I mentioned on your show I thought they could do throughout the course of the year.
Yeah.
They've probably come on faster after some of their off-season changes than even I thought they would.
He is the voice of the Titans, Mike Keith. Good luck with the Texans this week. We're off next week because I'm doing basketball in Maui. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and we'll reconvene in 2 weeks.
Can I go to Maui with you?
I'd love to have you come, man. We'd have a good time, I promise that.
I like basketball a lot, so I would be happy to go.
All right. Well, I'll meet you. We're staying at the Sheraton Black Rock, okay?
Okay, I'll be there.
All right. Very good.
Yeah. Bye.
That is Mike Keith, the voice of the Titans, and he's brought to you by Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. 3 generations of Garlands now. 2 Kens, and now William. He's in the business, and are they ever killing it? It's because they pay attention to details. Whether it's a brand new home, maybe you're looking for land, they can supply that. If you're not sure how to utilize the family land you've had forever, they know. All those generations, 80 years now of building beautiful palaces or remodeling. I call it renovation with innovation. You don't want to leave your lot. You love your location, but you want modern amenities. They are the perfect people. Go to KenGarland.com. You'll see exactly what I am talking about. And here's the other thing that Ken so proudly says if you listen to his recorded message. They're never done. They're with you the whole way. If they build your home, they're with you for a long, long time. The job in their minds is never done. It's family. That's the way they look at it. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Joe Denk tomorrow on the Business of Sports. Of course, Dennis Philippi and Jason Munz before we all head out on a long trip. All that we'll be doing tomorrow. In the meantime, Johnny Radio's next. Have a great day, everybody.